out. Welcome back to another hour with Crowder with me, your host Crowder. Like, share, subscribe, and comment. And if you're already a subscriber, go ahead and ding the bell so that you can get all of my latest podcast interviews every Tuesday. Today we got another good ass guest. Hey, Linda. How do you even pronounce
Hey,
your? It's Linda Bey, right? That sounds like some Creole shit.
no, no, it's Linda L. Bay.
El Bey. Do you got a
L.
little
Bay.
accent
Yes,
on it? El Bey.
that's separate, huh?
It got a little accent on it.
A little accent on it.
So, of course, you're a self-taught genealogist. You pretty much go into the background and the traces of finding people's family tree, the back way back stuff, not just your grandma or your granny or something like that, but you go way back, like pretty much from all the way slavery type shit. Could you tell people a little bit about yourself?
Yes. My name is Linda Bay. I am.
Oh, we
Hold
lost
on.
you out. We lost your
Let's put
camera.
that back on.
Okay, there
Okay.
you go.
I'm born and raised in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I've been living here in Dallas for 20 years. I'm a business owner, full-time business owner, and I do genealogy part-time. And I've been doing this for almost close to a year now.
Do people ever give you problems about being self-taught? Like a self-taught genealogist versus a textbook?
Yes, I
What type
do.
of
I get
problem
a
do you
lot
come
of.
up against?
What do I come up
Yeah,
against?
like whenever you're saying like because you don't even like pay like you don't even tell people to pay you for this. Like you take donations only. So
I
that
take donations only.
like that in a sense it's like I'm not trying to scam you. If you want help, you just need help. Like I'm just trying to help you.
Exactly.
So what type of problems do
Exactly.
you come up against being a self-taught genealogist versus a textbook?
Well, when I first started, I didn't know how to read the census very well, and I had to keep studying and research and keep, with my own family. I did that first. I followed my family all the way back as far as it will allow me to. So, and I learned how to read the census. I learned how to read the Quaker forms and the documents, and I just decided to do this for other people because they needed to know too. And I kept coming against a lot of people thinking they're from somewhere else, and they were not. They were actually here in the United States, and the census proved that for me. So it just made me want to go and explore deeper. And my experience came from searching for other people, actually, because everybody's from different places. So that helped me to figure out, okay, if you're from North Carolina, most likely if you came here through world travel, you may have came from Jamaica or one of the West Indies. That helping people gave me more experience.
Yeah, but like whenever you do get a client, well, you can't really call them clients because you only take donations. So
Right.
when you do help somebody out, then what is one of the first things that they say? I mean, you're self-taught, so do they be like, okay, is she a scammer? Is she this? Is she that? Like, what do you come up against with those people?
I never really do. It seems like everybody that I have helped have been sent in a way to where they needed it. Just like I think the only problems I really come up against is adopted people that are adopted. It's
I
really
bet you
hard
that.
to help them.
Yeah, I bet you those are shitty because you gotta like really they don't know their mom or they don't know their dad, so it's just like they pretty much got to hire a private investigator just to even get just the first part, which is their parents.
Yeah, and that's if they can. Most likely, if their records were sealed, they can as a child that was adopted, you can get your records, but there's going to be something missing, either a first name or a last name. They're only going to give you one of the names. and they're going to give you a state, but they're only going to give you one name in some senses. Some people get the whole name. I have helped people with the whole name. And every time I help someone that was adopted and they have the whole name, I always find a picture. Always. And that's like, wow, and I've helped so far 4. And some I can't because they don't have very much information.
The thing that I understand about like textbook genealogists or just textbook anything is that I trust those people a lot more than I trust textbook, because we all know that people be lying and then putting it in textbook, and then you go to school and then you just learn the lies. You just learn all the lies. But one thing about people that are self-taught is that you ain't going to teach yourself a lie. You want to know the truth for a reason. So I kind of, and I use discernment with a lot of people. Like when I found you on Bree Moore, she's part of Bree Moore Productions. I found you on her Facebook list. And I just out of the blue, I just clicked you and was like, hey, I want to know something about my family tree. And you found like all type of crazy stuff in my family tree, like part of the Boule and Masons. And it was this one in particular that you was like, hey, your family is part of like Masonry. And I was like, that's really funny because my grandfather and my grandmother, my grandmother is an Eastern Star and my grandfather is a Mason. So I knew that you was on the right track when you said that. And I was like, oh, she's the real deal. She's not bullshitting me.
Right.
And then even part of that Boule, like, I don't know if a lot of people know about the Boule, but it deals with a lot of like witchcraft and everything. And my mom would tell me this story about my great aunt. She would go over her house and she would say that she's fighting witches. She would lock my mom in a room and she would go out and go fight witches. And so I was like, oh, well, that explains the Boule line because my great aunt would be fighting witches.
Wow. That does explain it. And then, especially in Louisiana, New Orleans.
Yeah, which that's where my grandma's originally from. And then she moved to Colorado. And then she moved to Texas and had my mom.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. Wow. And that's why it's so important to know, as me being self-taught, I'm still learning. I'm always going to be a student and a teacher. We all of us are students and teachers. We teach it every day. So I'm learning so much, and I there's a YouTuber named Dane Calloway.
I love him.
He has really good videos for referencing and especially looking at the records. The records are hard when your family could change their names around because the census was taken like every 10 years, right? So one out of the 10 years, the names could be misspelled. That throws the person off with searching. Some of them had to flee and go to different areas. So I run into that too. Changing of the spellings of the names, especially in their 1700s. The changing of the names, like Murphy could be spelled one way, but they may have dropped the letter from that, and they had to use a different name. I run into that too.
And then you was talking a lot about, well, you already went over slavery, but you was talking about like the incest, about how you would find out that this is not only their mother, but their wife or like their sister or some shit like that.
Yes. I run into the incest too. Same father with 2 different sisters sometimes, and it causes a lot of confusion because when a person is looking for their parent and their parent is not who they think it is, and it's someone in the family, and you'll see that with the incest, you'll see a lot of death because they get sick. So you'll see a lot of that too in those records.
Whenever you started telling me about like censoring, that's how you find like the baseline of where people come from, it kind of changed my perspective about the censor. Because if you know anything about the censor, you know that it was used against black people and against,
Right.
minorities. You know that they were just trying to figure out how much black you had in you so that they could basically make a fucking caste system so that they could just
Right.
push you out type shit. And so
Right.
now when the censors come around, I'm the person that's closing the door in their face. I'm the one who's throwing the censor stuff out. But now I'm like, damn, did I potentially throw away some information that the next generation of my family line might need to figure out who we was? It made me think
Yeah,
about that.
you need it because not only, okay, the names are there, wherever they're, even if they had someone staying with them, the names are listed. City or precinct is listed, and some of the census there are no race at all. Some of them there, I have found some that's Asiatic. I found some that'll say American. I found some that has Native Indian. I found some that has colored, Negro. I've never found black yet.
That's one of the things that the Moors are against, calling people black. It's not really a thing because that's how they
No.
get away with a lot of these laws because we say, oh, we black, we black, we black, when that's not a nationality,
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's either you're Moorish or you're African or you're Jamaican or Haitian or something like that. But the moment that you say black, you basically are saying I'm no nationality, and that's how they get away with a whole bunch of shit that they get away with. We're talking about the government, them getting away with stuff.
And that's when you're dealing with, dealing on paper, and dealing with the straw man and things like that. Saying that, because I see Asiatic. I see that, like my grandfather, he was born in Macon, Georgia, and on his says Asiatic.
So he was wait a minute. So he was Asian?
No, he was a black man.
Okay, wait a minute. Explain that. You say Asiatic.
That's what's listed as his race on all his census. Asiatic.
Okay,
he was black. He was a black man. He was a black man that he was my complexion and everything. He's listed. His family's listed as Asiatic.
I don't know. That's weird. Isn't Asiatic like in the Asian race?
Asiatic could be Moorish. They call themselves Asiatic people. Indigenous calls themselves Asiatic too.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, maybe it's because it's like too close
he was
to
black.
Asian.
He was black as night. He was black as night. And he was born in Macon, Georgia.
Another thing that I started doing after I started getting a lot of this information from you about my family line was keeping a journal. I started keeping a journal because I was like, once you start to like, okay, well, I know that I fucked up on the censor. I stopped doing them shits. So I was like, okay, if I already had a whole like bunch of journals and everything, but then I just started up another one because I was like, okay, if they ever do figure out as far as I got or whatever and find my name, then they'll know that these stack of journals is mine. And then maybe from that, they'll see a name in it. They'll see me mention something, and then they'll look that up and find more on me.
That's right. And it's good to keep a journal of records and even a journal of stories that you were told already from your family. Because a lot of our stories are passed down. You'll hear a lot of people say, well, I know there's Indian in my family because my this and that, or this and that. So then that's when it comes to trying to figure out if it is, what kind. Is it a freedman? Is it civilized Indian? Because they have 5 civilized tribes.
What are they?
Right. There's 5 civilized known tribes, but there's a lot of different tribes. There's over 200 tribes. But they have 5 civilized ones that we all know: Navajo, Cherokee, Choctaw. Those are there's 3 of the civilized tribes.
You were speaking to me a little bit about like let's go back to the name changing thing about how
Okay.
they would change their names if they was fleed or if they was on the run or just if they got into another family. A lot of those slaves they ended up taking their slave owner's name or whatever.
Yeah.
Actually, the other day, the person that not sold me my house, but he does work on my house. His name is Crowder, and I'd be like, man, your people probably owned some of my people, bitch.
Yeah.
but back to the name thing. A lot of people be like, okay, freemen and black men and stuff like that. And we was talking a little bit about that, how they would take either their job description as their last name or their
Yes.
owner's name.
Yes. Stick. I'm doing a search for someone now, and their family's last name is Wood. But before their last names was Wood, they didn't have they called them Wood Stick, Wood Broom, like the earlier 1800 files. That's how it was listed. So what they did was the family that owned them, they just gave them the last name Woods. They kept that in their name. And it's just so, I'm pulling back the layers because everything is in layers. So I'm pulling back the layers and seeing how some became sharecroppers from being enslaved, and then they became sharecroppers. So I'm running across records like that too. So there are slavery records like that too, and they're just not as many as we think.
Yeah, like a big one, freeman. That could be based off of like, oh, well, this is just a free man. This is like Brian Freeman. He's just a freed man. Or if it was like a ton of like Carls in the city or whatever, then it'll be like Carl Black or Carl White, meaning that the
Right.
Carl that you talking to is black and the Carl that you talk to down the street is white. Just funny little ways that people got their last name back in the day.
Exactly. And the family that I'm doing now that owned the Woods family, their last name is Freeman.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And they could have taken on that name too, because there's different. When I do the searches and I come across the world travels, that sets me in a different place, because the world travels tells a lot. That's how I'm able to pull the slave records through the world travels, and when I started pulling them, I just started pulling random. I would just put a name in it, just pull random, and they were not that long. And I was like, wow. And I said, let me keep pulling more. Let me just keep pulling more. And they were not that long. So when I started doing searches for people, that helped me to go all over North Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina, Louisiana, Texas. Majority is Texas now. So there are certain people that need the information. I don't know what they need on the other side. Some people are not looking for native records or slave records. They may be looking for their parents or their grandparents. So, when I give them the information, it just says, they let me know, like, this is, they confirm it, and then I go on from there. If I can. Because some people's records, they're like hidden. Some of them are sealed. Some of them are closed.
Why do you think some of them are sealed?
I think it has something to do with maybe European families that have black families, like have black people in their family, like as one family. I see that. I see those records are sealed a lot. Military is hard to find military stuff too, and of course adopted records.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past them if it was sealed, especially if they have military base, because a lot of wacky shit was going on back in the day in military base. They was killing their own people, if they got out of line, and they just say, oh, well, they died in combat. Here's a flag.
Mm-hmm.
So, I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised if that's the reason why, especially if they have like a white bloodline or if it's black people in a white family. They don't want anybody to know that their bloodline isn't pure anymore.
Right.
And
And
then,
with the like, and even with the some of the European people that come from like the UK, a lot of them I noticed because I tracked them too. Um, they're within the same family sometimes,
yeah.
meaning like incest too.
What was some of the things that you found in your family tree that you found very interesting? Not just slavery or anything, but just something that when you was like,
My there's my I guess I would say my great grandmother Alma Pugsley was a spinster, a copper spinner. She spent copper, and they sent her to London to spin copper. That's what I do for a living full time. I spin copper, and I've been doing this for 10 years. And when I seen that, I was like, oh my gosh. First, I was like, what's a spinster? Then I had to pull up the old words, found out it was like like a Rumpelstiltskin. And Rumpelstiltskin used to spin on the wheel and spin the yarn and all that. So this is what she did. And that I don't use that, but that's what I do. So that was interesting to find out that it runs in the family, the artistry, the art, in piano playing. As I went back, there's piano players. Now I know why my little cousin and my aunt or something, they play the piano. Digging back and finding out the people from our history. And then another hard thing is confirming it with people that are still living, that's older than you. A lot of them are not around, and then some of the ones that are, they don't remember everything. So that's another challenge too. Even when I'm doing searches for people, they sometimes need to go and confirm with someone else in their family. Hey, did we have an uncle named this or an aunt named this? And did we live here and do this? Because some people think they just was in one state their whole life, and it's not true.
yeah, because that was
They find out they from New York, and they be like, what?
Yeah, that was one of the problems that I came up against when you was doing my family tree too, is because my grandma is dead. My grandfather died when my mom was 8, so there's nobody I can go back to confirm the information. And then when I show my mom these pictures, like these old time ass pictures of like you're showing me like, hey, this is your great great, aunt. This is, somebody named Taylor, which that's my base family's name is Taylor. And then you were telling me about how they was in the clothing industry. And my uncle, he's dead now, but my uncle was like a pretty like put together man. He loved clothes. He loved looking good. I mean, he could just be going to Walmart, which we know how Walmart is.
Right, right.
We know how Walmart is, but he would dress up even to go to a place like Walmart. So, I mean, some things like that kind of made sense. How my family all love to look good except me. I always look shitty. But I'm like, but my family and everything, they love to dress up. And yeah, that thing right there of like our not having a generation to go back and confirm the information, because we all die. We all die of complications, dieting, smoking, whatever. We just end up dying off. So, and then we don't keep records. We don't do census. We don't do anything.
And in some cases, like in your case, I was able to find a family tree. So that's how I was able to give you those pictures, because someone has that information. And even when I'm doing searches for, say, enslaved people, the European side that enslaved the people, they have more records than anybody. So I go on them on their side to match things up too, especially stories, because their stories are there. Some of them is just so much. So it depends on. It was a wealth thing too, because you could have been a slave owner and not had any money.
Yeah, I heard that only like 3% of white people really owned slaves back then. Everybody else was just fucking poor.
Yeah, yeah, I see that, and I see a lot of our people that I searched. A lot of them were sharecroppers. A lot of them owned land, own account. They worked on their own account. I kept on running across own account. That means that they work for themselves. Sharecropping, coffee, cola making, whiskey. I found all kinds of stuff. So it's like, wow, that's what changed my mind about a lot of things. I knew that there were uh, Indians that were of color. I already knew that, but it just made it go deeper with the records. The records don't lie, and that's their own record keeping, because the Quakers own records, and the Mormon Church, they have the Hall of Records.
You were talking a little. Well, we all know that, like I was talking about textbook. They've lied so many times. I mean, people have caught them in their lies, specifically about Indians and the Christopher Columbus story or whatever. Could you explain a little bit about the research that you found on how Indians lost their birthright to this land?
Yeah, to the land. A lot of they lost it due to treaties. A lot of the treaties were forced. Some of them were signed. Some of them were signed by some appointed chiefs that were not actual chiefs, and they did treaties. There were walking treaties. Walking treaties were when they say, okay, how much land can you walk in a day? And they would walk the land in a day, and they would have other people walking with them, and they would take the land like that. That's called a walking treaty. So they would use treaties. They would kill like hundreds and hundreds um, of Native people.
That's probably why black people so damn fast. Just imagine if somebody said, "Hey, if you could just run this block and see how much you could run," they would probably run in this shit. Now, that's probably why we so damn fast. Just because, I mean, if you talk about walking treaty, I'm not gonna walk. I'm just gonna run as fast as I fucking can, with however many people I can.
William Penn did that in Delaware, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He did a walking treaty so he can have that land. That's how he actually duped the people. He duped them. He played them, and he got his people to walk with him, and they got a lot of the land. They was not supposed to get that much land, and then waters. So you got the drinking waters. A lot of the drinking waters were not as clean as they were before. So a lot of the native people moved to where the clean water was too, clean drinking water.
Yeah, that was one of the things that you had sent me about the Canes River, and that's where that's in Louisiana, so that's where a lot of those Indians went to go just like live after they got like duped out of their land and everything. We were there talking about sharecroppers though, and I did read this story about how like sharecroppers, like you was talking about how the black Indians they owned that land, and then Europeans would come over here, and of course they're not coming over here because they're rich. They're coming over here because they're trying to escape England, and they're poor as shit. So they would work for the people, the Indians that owned this land, and then and that's how sharecropping became a thing. They would just share, and then they pay them out. But then over time, the bank started to get involved, and then and then they would pay like a lump sum fee, and then say, okay, this is what we're gonna pay you for the month, and then just slowly but surely they started to owe back pay to them, but because no records were being like kept, and if you know anything about money, that's why people like, oh, I got Blueface back then was like actual money that was recognized by the government or by the federal.
Right.
It was backed by
Right.
gold, and then the green was pretty much like an IOU. So these bankers were paying these sharecroppers IOU money, which is the green money, versus the blue money. And then they ended up, because there's no records being, collected on, you're talking about black Indians versus white Europeans and bankers at that. And then slowly but surely, they just kind of took it over because the green money was worth nothing and it's not backed by anything. So that's
Right.
what a
And then
story I read
a lot
on
of the
that.
Indian natives, they did a lot of bartering.
Yeah.
The Europeans didn't have anything to barter with them.
So they
They
basically
grew
had
everything
to
on their
work.
own. Huh?
So they basically just had to work for them. But it wasn't the Europeans that came over here. It was really the bankers that fucked them up with the land.
Yeah, I would say that later. I would put that like 1854, maybe around that time. But before the European came, like the Indians said, we could drink from the water. The water was clean. We could drink from the water. So I believe the banking system, like around 1854, that's when I start seeing own accounts, IOUs. I also see a lot of wills and probate, a whole lot of wills and probate, a whole lot of a whole lot of our people lost their land. I see that. See a lot of wills and probate. There's people now that don't even know, like the wills and probate, a lot of those are written in cursive. Those are written in cursive. So they're kind of hard to read. But when I see them, I send them to whoever I'm doing the search for, I send it to them. You need to maybe check this out. See what this is. Sometimes there's amounts there. Sometimes it's what they owe. They're in the wills and probate. Like what you were talking about, I see that in the wills and probate too. Court documents. I see what they owe. Some of them don't owe anything. I see that too.
Yeah, the problem with a lot of that is that it's a lot of unclaimed land out there because, like, you looking at it and we looking at it, like, you can't just start building on land. You have to know who owns that land, and
right.
And so that's why you get a lot of especially here in Dallas, like you'll see like a whole bunch of like new stuff, and then it'll just be one little raggedy space. And now, since I'm going through all of these records and all this information and learning all this stuff, it's probably because they don't know who owns that little fucking spot. And it's unclaimed.
Exactly.
And now the records is gone, so they don't know who owned it, so they can't build on it, but they don't know who owned it. And we don't know who owned it because we ain't got the fucking records.
They don't got the records. Or sometimes they may know who own it, but they can't find the next of kin. Or whoever's living from that person on, they don't know. Like it's a client I was helping him. He had a letter, and it wasn't there. I guess it was sent to an old address, but it was on file that he has land. And he's like, I had no idea. And someone left it. It was left to him.
Yeah,
he had no idea.
My dad has a bunch of land out east, and I think he owns like 3 acres of it. And my dad is like, he's pretty fair-skinned or whatever, and I always think like, was like our family on that side Indian? Because how did you get this land? Like
Oklahoma. That's
who
the Oklahoma side that I found.
Oh, with my dad's side. Yeah, mm-hmm. I'm just wondering who left you this land. I would have to go to his house and figure out some names and everything to give you. But yeah, I always wonder, like, how did you get this land? Who gave you this land? Because you wasn't just buying land back in slavery days. They wasn't giving you no damn land like that. So how did you end up keeping it long enough around to the point where it's still here today? Like, honestly, I'm like counting down the minutes until he died, because then I get all that damn land.
Oh, he been paying the taxes, and
oh yeah, for sure.
Sometimes the slavery, in like with Dane, backing up with Dane Calloway, because one of your questions was about Dane Calloway too, backing what he says about people being natives and being sent somewhere else and brought back here as slaves. That's true. And sometimes the slaves records that I find is just someone going from Florida to Louisiana, or Louisiana to Florida, or Canada to South Carolina, or, I'll see state to state.
Yeah, that story that they're telling us don't really make a lot of sense. And he made a really good point about how the way that the ship was made back then, it wasn't motor propellers. So you wouldn't have been able to get from Africa all the way over here to America in the time span that they're saying that they got here. It would have took them fucking years to do that. We talking about a wooden fucking ship with no propellers and a lot of niggas in the bottom rowing. That's not likable to happen. And then the amount of way that they had to come with little to no food, little to no water, because if you ever been out to sea, you can't drink sea water. It's too damn salty. So you would have died. And yeah, a lot of people did die, but it's not fair to say everybody is fucking African. Like, yeah, probably it is some Africans over here, but it wouldn't make sense at a business standpoint if you're talking about trying to conquer some people. You wouldn't take them from one place to another to work for you. You would just conquer the people that's already here.
Yeah, unless it was Pangea was all one and connected, like they talk about with Turtle Island, dealing with Turtle Island and all this stuff. Because it doesn't make any 300s. No, that ain't. Nobody would survive that. Not that long.
Yeah.
Not on them raggedy boats.
Yeah,
the boats
exactly.
that I've seen, all the files that I've pulled, and the names of the boats, I looked up those boats. Some of those boats wasn't even
big
adequate enough to stay on water for a year, let alone 2 years. I looked up how many times those ships broke down. I looked up all that, and it's not as many as people think.
Yeah, so the only logical solution would be that most of us was already here.
Yeah.
For the most part. Like I said, I'm not saying that everybody was here, but for sure most of us was here.
Definitely. And there was tribes everywhere. Everywhere. Australia. We know there's it's called the Willow Bend tribe, but we know them as the Tasmanian people. But they were the Willow Bend tribe. They were named after the Willow Bend River that sits in Australia and Tasmania. So they don't tell you about that part. They don't tell you that those people were a tribe. They were a tribe of people.
Yeah, and another thing that I came across was the $5 Indian. That story was so fucked up because basically anybody could pay $5 to be an Indian. And if you know what it means to be an Indian, that means you have sovereign land. So that means you could pay your way into being sovereign. And I mean, back then, black people that were Indians didn't really have money. They already had gotten fucked out of their land, and a lot of them had got killed and conquered. So you didn't have fucking $5 to give somebody to reclaim your land. So all these white people just started buying all the land with this $5, and that's how people started to be $5 Indians.
That's right. That's exactly. And then the ones that did not have $5, they stamped rejected on their paperwork. They were rejected because they did not have $5. So a lot of them they brought their way into it. Yeah. So they can be on the Dow's roads.
Yeah, that's why I be trying to tell people, like, those Indians that you see in Las Vegas and the straight black hair, those ain't real Indians, bro.
No.
Those aren't real Indians. I can show you a picture of a real Indian, the one that was here before all this stuff happened and before they pretty much sexed their way and bought their way into being an Indian, but those aren't
Right.
real Indians. Real
They're
Indians
not.
look like black people.
Exactly. They that's how they got on the Dow's rolls. Them $5 Indians. That's what those people have to go. And a lot of them have they own it, dealing with the casinos and all that stuff. The Indians own the land. These organizations own these casinos. The Indians is the ones that own the land that the casinos sit on. When I lived in New Mexico, we went to reservations a lot, and we went fishing on some reservations, and they would charge us. We only can get 2 fish, but we can still fish and then throw the rest back, and they would charge by the hour. A lot of them have land where you can go do stuff in entertainment, bowling alleys, bingo halls, because they need money. That's how they making their money. Casinos, bingo halls, amusement, like the flea markets, the amusement parks. I went to a couple of reservations in New Mexico. I was actually, when I got there, I was shocked because I didn't think I was going to see Native people there, and so many of them. And it just threw me back for a second, and I started going and visiting, and I was just like, wow. And, like, wow.
Yeah. Okay, dang. Do I have time for one more question? One more. Okay. So, you was telling me we're gonna shift gears just a little bit to your organization, which is the Skip Shockley Foundation organization. We were talking a little bit about that. I hope that I said it right. Did I say it correctly?
It's called the Skip Shockley Foundation, and the Skip Shockley Foundations are close friends of mine named Dewan Shockley and Nasa Shockley, and the Skip Shockley Foundation services South Dallas and Oak Cliff, the South Dallas Oak Cliff area, gardening, educational skills, grant writing classes, community help. So much stuff.
Have y'all came in contact with 4 Oak Cliff, the 4 Oak Cliff program with Unisha Wells?
I don't know. I'm not sure if we came across with her, but there's a lot of organizations that they work with.
Man, get with her. She's amazing. I had her on the show when I first started this off, and she does a lot of stuff for Oak Cliff pun. Okay, that's not a pun, but for sure, she does a lot of stuff for the community. And I really like if y'all join forces together, like y'all will be powerful. But the reason why I was speaking about your organization is because y'all own a community garden, which is very, very like crazy. It's not crazy. It's just really like cool that y'all own like a community garden because as everybody know, like GMO foods is all throughout, the hood. Ain't no Sprouts, ain't no Whole Foods. It's just Walmarts and that's it. And those are the stores that predominantly push out this GMO food.
Right, they do. And having a garden, especially in South Dallas, the Skip Shockley Foundation having the Wyatt Garden is a family-owned land. So Dewan Shockley and his cousin Nasa Shockley, they own the land now. It was left to them from their family. So they own the land now, and they decided to make it a community garden. And they just had a grand opening about 2 weeks ago, and it's going to be a great thing for South Dallas. District 7, and then inspire other community gardens too, because there is some in the area, but not like this.
Yeah, for sure.
Not like this. Not in the middle of right in the middle of South Dallas. Fruit trees they put down by maybe about 5 fruit trees last week. So, and it's for everybody that in the area to come and grow that food too.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna go plant some cucumbers later on. But it's just Like, I know that it's just that I know that, like, they're pushing this agenda from every which way, financially, but mostly through food, because food is medicine. Like, back in the day when we got sick, we didn't go rush to the doctors. You know, we just kind of ate some
Right.
pretty decent food, and our grandma gave us some orange juice or whatever, and then we were just fine. And now it's like, oh, go to the doctor, do this, do that. When Dr. Sabi himself said it, food is medicine. Figure out what your bloodline is and eat according to your bloodline. And because they're
That's right.
pushing GMO
That's
food,
right.
then it kills a lot
And
of
it's
that
a lot
stuff.
of them. And if you follow Dr. Sabi's list, that means you ain't gonna be eating too much of nothing, hardly, because a lot of things are GMO. Even the things that are veggies, some of them are GMO too.
Yeah, broccoli is a big one, and I really love broccoli. But yeah,
I
it's
love
GMO.
broccoli too.
Like
Potatoes,
yeah, potatoes. Like a bunch of those starches are GMO. We think of GMO like a hybrid, but it's just shit that was made up. That's all it is. So we just eating, in a sense, we think fake food, and we think, oh, what Bill Gates is doing, doing 3D food, making 3D food. But that's fake food. Yes, that's fake food. But but it's just really something that doesn't grow from the ground naturally.
Right. And that's got a lot to do with, especially when you mentioned the Bill Gates guy, that's going into eugenics, DNA altering.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff.
All of that. Yeah.
Yeah, we should have started off with that, because I could go for days about what the fuck Bill Gates. Before I even dip, you know that he's trying to block the sun?
Yeah, I saw that article.
He's trying
They've been doing that for a long time.
Yeah,
they've been trying to do that for a long time.
Like, people don't realize like how big that is. You're literally trying to block out the thing that charges us, like minorities, black, Mexican, Asians, all them. The sun charges us, like black people and minority people and stuff. We actually have the highest rate for seasonal depression when winter comes, because the sun charges us. And then you're trying to block out the thing that literally gives this whole planet life. The food, us, the water, everything. But I ain't gonna get too much on that, bro.
We call that a God complex. We call that somebody think they got a God complex. That's what we call that. Because, the planet is heating up. So when because of the planet heating up, they're trying to cool it down.
Yeah, they try. Man, we ain't got to get on there. We said we
got something to do with the inside of the surface. What's the matter? Y'all got to come to the surface now.
Man.
But I can go deep in that too.
No, we're going to have to get you another time on that, because that's a whole nother topic on its own. And I got in my tech, he got to get up out of here. So you already know that I do the 5 rapid questions every episode. Do you want to participate?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. If you could pick one celebrity to be on your family tree, which one would it be? Erykah Badu or Nipsey Hussle?
Nipsey.
Your grandfather from 4 generations down died. What would you rather him leave behind? The paperwork to the rest of your family tree, or a 1 acre of land?
1 acre of land.
Which one would you rather have on? Which one would you be the most shocked if they was on your family tree? A murderer or a child molester?
A child molester.
Yeah, that one rough than a hoe. I was hoping you'd pick the child molester. That's shocking as fuck. But which one would you have rather been, a house slave or a field slave?
Dang, I don't know. I would be both, because I would try something either way. I'm gonna be rebellious.
Pretty much. Okay, so the Skip Shock Foundation got, a crazy amount of promotion. Which one would you rather have a shout out from? The president or your locals representatives down here.
Local.
For sure. Well, Linda,
sure.
It's been real. I've definitely got to get you back on to talk about that Bill Gates situation because
yes,
yeah, it's a lot going on. People over there running around talking about Quavo and Sweetie when we all about to die in the next couple months.
Man, talk about it. Talk about it. And I also want to. I know you have this book.
Yeah, I got that book.
For
the people that don't know,
oh
well, they're gonna see book. It. Yeah.
And I have this one right here.
Bag it back a little. Okay, there we go.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Can you see the whole thing? Cause
yeah,
I can't tell.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
This one is awesome too. This one is Dane is modern, more up to date. This is an older book. This has all the tribes in there, the original spellings, the names, the appointed tribe. There's appointed chiefs that are not natural chiefs. Cherokee, Choctaw, those names come from appointed chiefs. So it breaks it. This book right here breaks it down too.
Well, go ahead and shout out all of your social media so that people can know where to find you.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Sacred Instruments Jury. That's my jury company. I'm on Facebook, Linda Bey, Sacred Instruments Jury on Facebook as well. And the website is www.sacredinstrumentsjury.com.
Okay.
And Skip Shockley Foundation .org. You can look them up. You'll see they'll come up too. CIVN.org as well.
For sure. And that's an hour with Crowder. Thank y'all.